So, what's your thoughts, man, on this whole Jerome Powell Federal Reserve probe? I mean, I myself, for one, believe that the Federal Reserve is a criminal enterprise, just professionally structured.
Mhm,
Um, around 1913, when the Federal Reserve was first established in secrecy on Jekyll Island,
mhm,
they weren't even transparent about what they were doing on this island. When people asked, they were just telling the public that they were just duck hunting. And, you know, some of the most richest and prominent figures were amongst the individuals who were on this island at the time. So it's just kind of interesting, right? The
mm.
timing for all these people. I think they said about a third of the world's wealth were all a part of this meeting. So it's very interesting to, think about. But what's your thoughts on them, finally starting to investigate these guys for, the criminal enterprise that they really are?
I do think it's an overall good, being that we are in the Bitcoin space, the blockchain space, you could call it that. You know, this is one of our biggest gripes about, what made us come to this side and promote this side of, you could call it the financial rebellion that is currently taking place in our era. Um, I think it's an overall good. I know a lot of people don't see it like that, mainly because many people are uneducated about how the Federal Reserve really works and its origins, and about the harm that it truly has caused to our society in terms of the effort we have to put in to stay above water when it comes to battling these economic downturns, the ups and downs in the market. Um, because, like, when I first understood how the Federal Reserve was formed and what it really did, I was really shocked. This was all around the time, I became interested in Bitcoin. And when I started to understand how it was structured and its relation to the United States government, I was like, it seems like it seems like the most dangerous organization on the planet. Like, why does this exist? And it doesn't really do any good. We're still having economic downturns. They get worse. Some people may say, "Oh, well, it was made to counteract that." Sure, some downturns still happen, but they're not as bad. The hell, they're not. It's like every time there's a downturn, they're always bad. Like, even as a kid, um, I remember the recession of 2008 and 2009. Even still living with my mother, it was like, I still saw how bad it was for adults. I always heard about it in some form. And when I look at what Trump is doing, I see that, it's not an easy task to do this. This is one of the things that's really going to kill his reputation in terms of the American people, how the American public view him. Like I say, I think it's a overall good, but this is the next step I see, um, in terms of the long game that's being played here, and there's really no turning back here. I don't think any president has ever done this. Actually, launched a criminal investigation into the Federal Reserve, especially a high-ranking individual like Jerome Powell. It is kind of unsettling to think, like, wow, it's like he's really taking that extra step, like,
Hmm.
damn, like you can't walk away from something like this. He has to stand on it, as our generation says now. You got to stand on it, and like I said, I got respect for him, but I do think it is, it's something everybody should pay attention to and shouldn't take lightly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the fact that Jerome Powell he's been the chairman of the Federal Reserve for about four different presidential terms. I think it was Alan Greenspan who before him. But through four presidential terms, this man has basically seen and influenced market cycles. Some people look at the Federal Reserve as the people who are in charge of money. Their main goal, their main two drivers, influences is ensuring maximum employment and price stability. That is their two major focal points. But I think a lot of times there can be a lot of political influence involved in the way that the Federal Reserve does things, whether it's quantitative easing
Mm-hmm.
or lowering interest rates for one party's approval rating or whatever you call it. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen that before. That's kind of what Trump is pushing for. He wants Jerome Powell to get the interest rates lowered because it's all about numbers, it's all about stats and statistics. No president under their term want to say that they had to deal with a lot of inflation. Basically, you want people, mainly stupid people, to look back and say to themselves, "Well, when such and such was in office, I had a lot of money in my pocket. That's all I know." It's easy to fall for that, and I think the faster that people realize that there is no such thing as free lunch, we can stop looking forward to these handouts, these subsidies. You know what I mean? When I mentioned the qualitative easing, that just basically was their attempt to keep the market looking normal. Because if they didn't do that, they didn't step in and influence markets. Uh, it would have been total chaos. The market would have did what it was supposed to do, which
Mm-hmm.
is correct. And a lot of people were supposed to lose a lot of money. And unfortunately, we've gotten ourselves in a situation, in a jam, uh, to where we are really just willing to ride the bottom. We're willing to ride the dollar to the bottom, like ride it all the way to the bottom of the ocean. So when you think about what Michael Saylor mentioned, as far as when currencies get overinflated, they don't necessarily break down as a medium of exchange. People can still exchange that currency, no matter how deflated it becomes. Uh, it will become more and more inconveniencing as you have to take barrels of cash to the grocery store just to get bread. But although it doesn't break down as a medium of exchange, the currency breaks down as a store of value, which is one of the major functions you want money to have. It's
Mm-hmm.
that store of value function that we all seek. And the lack thereof is what influences us as human beings. It directly impacts our behaviors and our cultures, as we always sit and talk about here. Um, if the money that I had to work hard for and get up early for and get out of bed for, if that money held its value, if it had the store value function, I could better plan for my future. I'm going to save X, Y, and Z amount of dollars. I'm going to buy this house on this block around this time. You can calculate to a T how long it would take you to save up for whatever your goal is, whatever you're after.
Mm-hmm.
But when the store value function is broken, now you're in a system to where you literally just don't know. You literally cannot calculate how many paychecks it would take or how many licks that it would take for you to get to the center of the fucking Tootsie Pop. That's
Mm-hmm.
what's going on here. This is the environment we find ourselves in. And with all of this uncertainty, man, it's like, where do you hide? Where do you run? We're in a fucking burning building. Um, the people on the first floor, they already got out. They made it out unscathed, minimum burns. But the people on the second floor and up, I mean, all the access and egress points are completely engulfed in fire, and all the people on the second, third, fourth floors, maybe they can still jump out and land on, landing pads or fucking safety nets. But what about the people on the seventh, eighth, ninth floors, 10th floors, the 20th floor? This is who we are. We're the people who get the very least opportunity to react to the burning building, which is the dollar, right? This is what they call, I think it's called the Cantillon effect. The Cantillon effect is an effect where who's ever closest to the spigot or the money printer, they're able to benefit first and foremost from that additional currency or liquidity injection. And then all the people who the money trickle down to last, by the time it gets down to the U's and I's, the hardworking people of the world, um, it's already lost most of its value. It's not able to efficiently store that value to where everybody can get an equal amount of use out of it. That is the Cantillon effect. And so, you know, Bitcoin appears as this portal. You're on that 21st floor in a 21-story building that's burning from the ground up. Bitcoin is this portal that appears out of nowhere, and you don't know where it leads, and you don't know who the hell put it there. All you know is that it's a way out of this burning fucking building.
Hmm.
And that promise is better than the promise that you are about to die
Hmm.
if you don't get out this damn building. So, but yeah, I'm very curious to see what comes of this investigation. And, Trump has been probed his damn self. So, we know that's not the end all be all, but it's definitely interesting to get that magnifying glass on Jerome Powell.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier, the all this uncertainty that exists within the current monetary system we find ourselves living in. One thing it causes a lot of anxiety. Like I said, you can't plan for the future. For it's hard to plan to set up a college fund for your grandchildren when you don't know how much that's going to cost, when the price of a college education keeps going up. There's no regulation in there, but then the value of it keeps going down. Things keep changing. Industries keep changing, falling, and new ones are built, and more regulations are put in place. Some are taken out, but the money itself is like it just keeps on getting more and more devalued. And like you say, you can't plan for anything. That's why a lot of Generation Z, they take a lot of surveys, different survey companies. They ask Generation Z, how much money do you personally need to feel comfortable in your life until the day you die? And the number keeps going up. Many people in Generation Z are saying, oh, I need 3, 4 million. And I get why they say that. I get why they say these numbers, because to a certain level, they get it. They see how bad things are. They may not understand it on a complex level, like the Federal Reserve or fractional reserve banking and Bitcoin, but they know they're like, look, it's already hard for me now, getting out of my parents' house, or I may still live with my parents or whatever. And they see, man, to retire, it might take 3 or 4 million. I totally agree. At one point, that number, when our parents was coming up, might have been, oh, I just need a couple 100,000. Now it's 3 or 4 million. What will it be when, our little cousins are coming up, when our nieces and nephews are coming up? It's going to be, well, I need 8 to 10 million. I wouldn't doubt it, because like you say, with the system that's in place, that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to make us work hard for sums of money that most of us will never even touch at all. Especially, like I said, as long as the system stays in place, and it's gonna stay in place. Especially when you figure that the Federal Reserve, along with the United States government, they're gonna roll out their own digital currency, and it'll be able to track us, and it'll be even worse than paper money. It'll be the ultimate form of control. That's why when I look at the probe into Jerome Powell, it's really a political statement. On one side, yes, we know Trump wants to, lower interest rates, and that'll actually cause problems too. Actually, it'll make a lot of things worse. But the simple act of probing Jerome Powell is a political statement, in the sense that, look, yes, I have my own agenda, but somebody has to stand up to you guys. And no president before me has ever really done that. Well, you maybe except Kennedy, to some degree. And when you look at it like that, it's like, damn, what side are you truly going to be on? That's why I tell people, you got to pay attention to stuff like this. And a way to cast your vote in this whole debacle is to invest in something like Bitcoin, because of what it stands for, because its mere existence is a political statement against the current powers that be in the paradigm we find ourselves in.
Man, that was philosophical, beautiful how you laid that out. I heard somebody say, look, man, if you want to boycott the Federal Reserve, you just buy Bitcoin. If you want to boycott the banks, you you leverage your Bitcoin, you borrow against it. That way you don't lose your asset, but you're taking liquidity from the bank.
Mhm.
Um, if you want to put a middle finger up to the I think they call it the private weapons program or something like that BlackRock is involved with. You just buy the IBIT. Um, So there are ways, peaceful ways that you can go about protesting the things that you're silently or quietly against. You mentioned different presidents going at the Federal Reserve, and Trump. It's fitting for somebody like him to be the guy going after Jerome Powell. I mean, he got this villain arc that he's kind of embracing now, and he's kind of already embraced it, since 2016. But I feel like right now, anybody getting in his way, he's gonna look at Maduro. You know
Mm,
what I mean? Like any entities that's standing in this guy way, he's gonna make it known. Look, I'm not afraid of you, and that's what you want out of a leader. Is it the right decision? To be determined. But yeah, I think the fact when you think about the name Federal Reserve, the fact that they're not federal, they have no reserves, should tell you everything you need to know. This enterprise should not exist, let alone have any say so on how our lives are ruled, uh, what we get up and go to work for. No say so in that whatsoever. And with that being the case, this is the environment we find ourselves in. And, I'm just seeing the people around me slowly struggle more and more and getting more and more poor. And life is going to get increasingly more difficult for anybody who does not own Bitcoin. If even if you own $10 worth right now, you still have an inkling of hope. That $10 might not do nothing today and might not do nothing tomorrow. But if you got kids, who knows? The sky is always the limit as long as you own some. And this is what I'm trying to get people to understand. I just started mining last week. I'm very excited about that. Just turning electricity into Bitcoin. It's almost alchemy. It's a fascinating process, and I feel like I'm ahead of so many people. I'm literally living in the future, and when we finally get to that point to where everybody has a miner in their home, where people are no longer cutting on furnaces, they're using miners to heat the homes. It's gonna get more interesting. And I see this evolving into, everyday random household items that might not seem like a threat that could secretly be miners in people's establishments. Because you don't want to run your own electricity up, so why not get electricity from this job? If you go to
mm,
a nine to
mm.
five, a cubicle office job every day, what's the harm in plugging up a coffee pot at the desk? Or I've seen people with crock pots at the desk. Depending on what environment you work in. Sir Hoddles here could one day secretly be a freaking Bitcoin miner. That just looks like a desk lamp or something like that. So I foresee a business model where people are making like these discrete everyday household objects, but they're secretly miners that can pull electricity from wherever you are. And I prefer you do it in your work environment. It is a kind of like a when you think about it's somewhat unethical, but it is practical. That's the most important thing. It's practical and it's for a good cause. So even if you are costing your employer a little bit extra and energy costs, who cares? It's already damn near factored into the budget. So you need to be one of those people taking advantage right now.
Yeah, it'll be. I can see a lot of companies uh, paying a lot of their employees in Bitcoin because, from what I see, as people start to understand, how powerful Bitcoin is in terms of beating inflation, building a long-lasting wealth, you'll see a lot of companies start to implement this in their payment systems, and that'll build a lot of loyalty between employees and employer. Once people start to really understand it, they'll probably even make that a part of the hiring process and say, hey, we're going to pay you as a part in Bitcoin. And people will be like, oh, okay, I actually like this, you know? Yeah. So it's like, I know a lot of celebrities, have been pushing that idea, the smart ones, which is rare. Um, yeah, I can see a lot of logistics companies implementing this, in how they pay employees, especially in the field of like finance. Like you look at companies like real estate companies and um, different different people in the banking sector. I think that'll be something we'll see within the next decade or so. I'm all for it, because 401k, IRA, that's one thing. That's what our generation was raised on. But then when you look at something like Bitcoin, people would be like, I could just have part of my paycheck put in this, and it'll actually grow, and I can beat the U.S. government with it. Hmm, I like the sound of that, you know. So, like I said, I think we'll see that pretty soon. Definitely by the time we're 40, we'll see things like that. Something like this, things like that are already playing out, but on a massive scale, you'll start to see things like that in the near future. Let's see.
Yo,
Yep, back in. You froze on there. You froze on me for a second.
man, my shit took a dump. Now I'm
Yep.
trying to get my iPhone camera to connect back.
Yeah.
I don't know if it died or what. Fuck. But you can still hear me though.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay. Okay. Try one more thing. Alrighty. Man. But yeah, I think where I was is I was essentially just saying that, it's just fascinating how all of this stuff is just playing out, man. And to be quite honest with you, man, it's very easy, and I'm sure you can relate to this, but Bitcoin easily becomes a boring conversation if that price ain't moving. There is no marketing team. There is no company organization behind or fighting or dying for the success of it. Everybody, it's just hope for a lot of different entities and a lot of different people. So the price movement is the only marketing campaign for it. It's the only thing that gets people asking questions, keeps
Hmm.
people interested, and makes it justified to keep bringing it up. If that price ain't moving, it's hard to keep bringing it up without seeming like you're annoying people. So, I
Hmm.
actually came across a channel where a guy said, you're much better off just not speaking on it at all. Don't tell nobody about it, especially people who aren't asking you questions. So I'm gonna try to do a better job of that. It's just so hard for me, just given the nature of who I am. I believe in just trying to give back and give value to people and make your life and your time here on earth worth something meaningful, impact. That's all I got. I hear about people being diagnosed with diseases every other day, with my wife working in a hospital, and she tell me these stories about these 30-year-olds with these different types of cancers and the unfortunate situations they find themselves in. It just made me like, if there's no avoiding all of this, man, what can you do in spite of knowing that something ugly could be in your path, could be waiting on you? And for me, it's just making that conscious effort to continue to provide value for people, continue to make a difference where you can, where you're able to. Um, those are the intangibles that matter, and the only thing that's going to matter when you land on your deathbed, asking, was it all worth it? because we'll all get there. So, but yeah, it's fascinating what we see happening, man.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I like when you mentioned how you say there's no marketing team for Bitcoin, nothing like that. No PNR division, no departments. That's actually why I like it, because that adds to the whole decentralized nature of it. We are the marketing team, but the main thing is that we you have to just tell people who want to hear about it. Like even me, is like I mentioned, like, hey, me and my cousin, we do a podcast, we talk about Bitcoin, financial education, what's happening in the economy and stuff like that. And if they want to listen, I go more into detail. And if they don't, that's cool, because it's similar to how when I discovered, psychedelics, I had to learn that, when I first discovered them, I was like, oh man, I want to tell everybody about this. But then you realize, the main part of using these substances is to let go of that ego. And it's the ego that says, oh, I have to tell anybody. It's like, I really ain't got to tell nobody nothing who don't want to hear about it, because people will find out when they're ready. And some people may never be ready. Not everybody is going to break out the matrix. Some people are doomed, and that's okay too, because it's the law of averages. Some people are doomed to die in this financial system and to suffer for the rest of their lives. That's not my responsibility to try to get them out. My responsibility is to get the people who want to hear, because I can't force you, because that goes against the nature of what this thing Bitcoin stands for, and that's freedom, and that's free will, and that's
Mm.
choice. And the last thing I want to do is try to take away somebody's free choice. It's the same way when I talk about the whole gun debate. I'm not against fully automatic weapons. They are scary, but I'm not against them. I just have to hope that people choose to use their free will with them, as as ethically as possible. But I can't force nobody to do nothing. And that's why, like I say, we bring up Bitcoin, I say, hey, if people want to know about it, then they'll know about it. Because the same way when I discovered it from my homeboy Dan Smith, rest in peace. At first I kind of brushed it off, but then eventually I came around. But that was my path, and that's okay. For some people, they may not get until they're 50, and that's totally fine. And it's being calm and cool with that, because the main thing is decentralization, free will, free choice. What the founding fathers, spoke about: liberty, the pursuit of happiness, whatever that may be to somebody. And that's something that I stand behind when it comes to educating people about Bitcoin. Just people have to want to learn about it, because that's the beauty of it. When you come to it with your own free will, because you want to, it's that much sweeter when you start investing in it, and then you tell somebody, and then they may get into it, and then they tell somebody, and they keep it going. That's the beauty of it, is just knowing that, okay, it's not about, oh, I told 100 people about Bitcoin today, I have to get at least 50 people. No, if you don't get nobody, if you don't get,
Oh,
because
that
it's not
remind me
about,
of them ugly ass
yeah,
multi-level marketing schemes. I
yeah,
gotta tell X amount of people so I can sleep right at night.
yeah,
Keep
it's
my
like,
subscription.
yeah, because it's like, at the end of the day, if you don't get nobody, that's totally fine too, because you know that you're doing what's right. And if you just get one person, that's fine. That's totally fine too. It's
Look,
no,
I do think that there is some nobility involved in waking up and having determination that
yeah,
I'm gonna teach somebody about Bitcoin today. And if you do get one person knowing that you did a day's work, that is an honorable day's work,
mm,
because what you're doing from them comes from a place of love. And I absolutely love, I'm fascinated with the way that you mentioned it, the gratitude perspective of people not being forced to learn about Bitcoin. This is a spiritual awakening, and nothing as profound as that should ever be forced on people. When you
mm,
think about the fact that society is regulated by a fiat currency,
right.
fiat in Latin literally stands for let it be done. In other words, force.
You ain't got no choice. We was
Yeah.
born. All of us were born knowing from the time we held a dollar in our hands as kids that you like this is worth something, but we ain't have no choice in saying, well, why is it worth something? We were just told it's worth something. You got to hold on to it, even though as we get older and realize, man, this shit is worthless. Like, why do I have to use this? We ain't have no choice in that. We have a choice in using Bitcoin. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, man. And the technology is so fascinating. You mentioned that at first you didn't really care about Bitcoin. It wasn't a need to know moment for you. And eventually you came around. Everybody has that come around moment. And some of us can afford to ignore it longer than other people. A lot of us don't have that luxury. We still think we do. We still think it's a choice, but it's no longer a choice. Um, but for the people who are ready for that awakening, they're ready to be baptized into a new religion, a new world, a new paradigm. Bitcoin is always going to be there waiting for you, and we're going to be on the other side of that finish line waiting on you too.
Mm-hmm.
This again, that this community was a turn off when I first found out about cryptocurrency in general. I didn't like the cockiness, I didn't like the arrogance involved, but really it's just having a superior IQ level and not having the patience to try to compensate for people who aren't as capable of comprehending what the hell is going on here. Uh, Talked to an older gentleman today in his 70s, and it threw me off the fact that he was even remotely interested in Bitcoin. He confessed, I don't understand it, and I don't know enough about it to really formulate a serious opinion on it. And I respected that. He didn't just shoot it down. He was honest about the fact that I just don't know enough. And with enough information, that can change. And the
Mm-hmm.
best Bitcoiners are the ones who did not trust it, the ones who started out as complete skeptics. It's designed for skeptics. Society was built on needing to trust other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm eliminating the need for trust, then I expect a lot of trustless people to not like it at first. Like, I don't trust people, so I'm not gonna just trust this protocol. But it's an open protocol, so if you can read, you can understand how the protocol operates and understand that it doesn't matter where it came from, and you influence directly, or indirectly, where it has the potential to go. So, like Satoshi said before he stepped away, it might be a good idea to get you some just in case it catch on. Well, Cap, it looks like it caught on,
Mm-hmm.
huh?
And that's the thing is where that's where like when people say, "Oh, it's a scam," I'll be like, "Well, usually, well, let's flip it. You know, we could say that the fiat currency is a scam. And scams go on a long time. It's just some scams become law. But for a passing trend, for a fad, most scams don't last more than maybe a couple years. Like it's like the AI bubble that's happening right now. Like this AI bubble ain't about to go for another 7 years without popping. It's gonna pop before me and you are 35 or 36. We can definitely guarantee that based on the data models we've seen in the past of quote unquote scams and different bubbles and things of this nature. So when you look at something like Bitcoin, I'll be like, well, this thing has been going on for 20 years now. If it would have popped, if it was a scam, it would have popped long, long time ago. So there must be something about it that people inherently see through all the hatred, through all the disinformation, misinformation, where it's like, well, the fact that it's lasted this long, it must have some value, to people, some inherent value. And if it didn't, why would the powers that be constantly 24/7, 365 spreading disinformation about it? Whether it be the CIA or the IMF or whoever, that because they fear it, because that's their job. Their job is to fear something that could destroy what they've built that keeps them in power. It's the yin and the yang, and it's going to keep on going until we all go extinct on this planet. You see it in nature. You see it with cats chasing mice. You see it with spiders catching flies. It's everything. It's just, light and dark, negative and positive, going back and forth. And some people choose to stay on one side of this system. Others choose to go on the other side. And at some point, you get to know what it's like to be on either side. It's just that me and you, we choose to be on the side of, and I don't mean to sound cliche, but we choose to be on the side of justice and truth and freedom and understanding and making tough decisions. Um, and that's the hard part about believing in something like Bitcoin. It's pure faith, but you don't feel wrong about it. Like, it's one of those things to make you understand that, like, faith, you can have evidence, you can have data that helps guide your decisions, but some stuff you truly have to just say, I believe this. You have to feel it. It's like when I recently had my first breakthrough with DMT, you couldn't tell me that what I experienced wasn't real. Like, if anything, it was more real than me sitting here talking to you through this phone. And where it's like, I know this is real. People could say, well, it's just your brain. Is it doing this? Like, well, you could say that, but I know this was real. What I experienced was realer than real. I know Bitcoin is realer than the paper money that I've held in my hands through the years, than the money that I have in my account. I know it has more value. I just know it. And that's something that even the scientific community, they hate to admit, but it's like, that's where religion and spirituality and science converge to say, like, man, this is just something we can't quantify. You just have to believe it. You just have to believe it. And for me, that's how I sleep at night. I just know that, look, I know I'm making the right choice in this. I know with my actions, I know that this thing, it is the truth. I don't need any other evidence. Like, I've experienced, I've felt it. Now you say some experience can be biased based on your belief, but that's the thing. It's like, I abandoned all my other beliefs about money and the financial system we have when it comes to educating myself about Bitcoin. And even sometimes when I go back and read the white paper, I'm like, man, this shit is complex. Sometimes I forget, but I'll be like, but it feels right though. It feels right based off what I know. It's like, I may read it 1,000 times. Sometimes I forget, and I have to go back and study blockchain technology. But I'm like, this feels right outside of my ego. Like, this feels right based off what I've learned so far. Like, this feels right, and that's a message I want to send to anybody out there. If you have that feeling when you start to research about Bitcoin, if you start to have that feeling and it's brewing inside of you and you constantly have it, even though you say that, man, this thing is complicated, but I believe it. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. And there's the beauty of Bitcoin. There's no dogma with Bitcoin. It's just like, here, it is what it is. Sometimes the most captivating things are just like I tell people, sometimes God works in very obvious ways. Sometimes he does work in mysterious ways. Sometimes he works in obvious ways. Like, look, just turn around. Look, I ain't about to send you through no maze or on no mystic journey. Just turn the hell around. The door is right there. Like, just go. Just go. You up here waiting for a sign. It's right here. I've been showing you for 17, 18 years now. I'm not about to show you anything else. Why would I? Like I say, I'm the most powerful being in existence. Why would I go through the work of sending all these signs and symbols? It's like all that bullshit. Like, here, y'all keep expecting me to send some sign or a dove in the sky or some kind of mystic chain of events to add up to some numbers. No, bro, it's right here. Like, sometimes it's like, no, fuck that. It's like, just, you don't even have to go through some shit and lose everything like Job. Look, it's right here. Like Devo said, you wanted it back, homie. It's right here. Like, it's right here. Like,
I didn't know you wanted it back. Hey, how
You know?
convenient is it too, like, to be able to take the path of Bitcoin and then just filter out everything else? That is a hell of a convenience. And you talked about this, like, not wanting to the powers that be, right? What the reason why Bitcoin is such a threat to them is threatening their very existence. That's exactly what an ego does, right? The ego fights back anything that there could be an idea that you and someone else can be going back and forth on. And the reason why you just cannot lose this exchange, this back and forth, is because then your ego dies and you're forced to throw out whatever you previously believed and adopt another person's belief. So usually that leads to clash because neither ego wants to die. It's like, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. And I seen an argument today. It was a cringy, uncomfortable argument between Anton Daniels and Corey Holcomb. And I follow Anton Daniels' content a lot. I think he's a brilliant black content creator. Um, the hang up was Corey Holcomb had an issue with the fact that Corey Holcomb essentially he chose to pick on black men a lot and black women. Corey Holcomb's argument was like, why don't you go at white people? Why don't you go at white men? And he was like, I go after white women all the time. As far as mentioned the fact that they're like the white liberal women are the worst thing that ever happened to Western society. And he was like, but you still ain't saying nothing about the white man, your sponsors or whatever. So, I've seen how both of them did not want their egos to die under that light, under that microscope, and they both had to fight for what they believed in that moment. And so the exchange got heated, but it was uncomfortable to watch. It was two people you absolutely respect. But that just plays into what you said, man, about, how they're watching this thing play out, how they're watching Bitcoin literally destroy all of the old models. We thought running a financial system, an economic system was supposed to be rocket science. Turned out it was only supposed to be proof of work. Just prove to me you did the work. That's all I'm asking. Can you just do that? Can you just prove that the work has been done? And that's what each block does. It's proof of the work. You can check the validity, the proof. You know exactly how much energy required, how much computing power and thinking power required. What's fascinating about this network is the fact that you can invest billions and billions of dollars trying to attack it and dissuade other nodes and send out false blocks. And you're only going to have control of the network for 10 minutes before the next block is generated. And you're trying to outpace every other miner. You don't have enough computing power to do so. It just becomes much more trouble than it's worth. And you have all the incentive in the world to just be an honest node. Be an honest node. That is your incentive. Like, it's going to cost you dramatically less, and the reward could be dramatically more. So I'm kind of, I've had it up to here as far as competence levels. I don't know what else to do. I'm kind of at a crossroad right now. They say you can't teach old dogs new tricks. So I'm not trying to teach, the people who only got 5 or 10 good years left in their life. But for the people who at least got another 15, 20, 30, 40 years to look forward to, this is a conversation that is worth having, and you shouldn't think you're above it or beneath it. You're eligible to have this conversation if you get out of bed and go to work for money to do something you probably, more than likely, hate to do for money. So you should be a part of this conversation. The conversation of money being separated from the state for the very first time ever. You should want to be a part of this conversation. There is no conversation more relevant than this one.
I totally agree. Because ever since I really got serious about it, I'm just like, man, it's like nothing else really matters. Everything else is just a distraction in terms of bettering my life financially. Especially when you add social media into it to where it's like you got all these people saying, invest in this, invest in that. I can make you rich if you just buy this course and then you invest in this right here. Forget Bitcoin. This is the new treasure right here. And I'm just like, no, I think I'm just gonna stay right here. I'm gonna stay doing this right here, and then you have the old money saying, hey, invest in this, stuff like that. And like I say, some of the stuff, like I say, like I still promote gold. Like I say, like I'm not totally against gold or stuff like that, or stuff like silver. Or if anything, I would say it's really just come down to gold, silver, and Bitcoin at this point, with Bitcoin being in the lead, obviously. But at least those things still have some objective value, and they're built on, sound money principles. But this other stuff is just like you say, like we've had time, we invested in Litecoin and things like that, and we're smarter now. But that goes back to having to put in the work. It's not going to be easy getting into heaven. What I'm saying? You're going to have to give up something that you're used to holding near and dear to your heart, something that was easy to have, but now it's becoming convenient to have a part of your life. And now with Bitcoin, it's like, like I said, you're gonna have to give something up in order to get to where you want to be over here, wherever that is.
Absolutely. And guess what? They mentioned you shouldn't die on a hill unless that hill provides you a valley to live in. What does that mean, bro? The reason why I'm gonna die on this Bitcoin shit, man, is because the hill that you're dying on, the valley is so steep, right? What it offers, what's underneath all of this, number one is the ethical foundation, Cal. Remember that. If you're wrong about Bitcoin, you're still right about the ethical foundation, because it's only an idea. That's all it is an idea. But it's an idea whose time has come. Okay. So that's number one, the ethical foundation. The transparency. Who can really blame you or look at you as a bad person for wanting to be involved or choosing to put all your eggs in a transparent basket built on an ethical foundation?
I like that. A transparent basket.
Built on an ethical foundation. So you got an ethical foundation, you got transparency, and you got finality. It's finite, bro. Nobody is going to dilute me out of everything that I've worked hard to earn and have worked diligently to save and keep. You can't dilute me out of my position. Every Satoshi that I mined, and I probably mined about 10 since we've been having this conversation. Every Satoshi that I mine is mine, and it cannot and will not be diluted by an outside third party. So the ethical foundation, the finality of it, and the transparent nature of it. Who can really say anything bad about you for putting all your eggs in that basket? So that's why when all of these distractions come at you, and it inevitably will, distractions are about to get ready to come out the woodworks on you, especially as you start making more money. Distractions are going to come from every direction. Money opportunities. People going to want you to go in business with them or invest in their ideas. Hey, I got a great idea. And they're going to wonder, like, man, how are you really turning stuff down like this? Are you really a businessman? And it's like, yeah, I finally quieted out all the fucking noise and I'm focused now. Bitcoin allows you to focus, and it tests your focus. How well can you focus? Like you said, I'm not against precious metals like gold. I do love how nature creates the ledger. It keeps it scarce. But Bitcoin has all the intent of what gold was supposed to be, and if not better. So I look forward to seeing, man, how our lives change because of it, because of this protocol, because we have Bitcoin. Now that we have Bitcoin, I look forward to seeing how that changes everything about the way we live our lives. But if you're new to this channel, look, we talk about all things Bitcoin, politics, finance, culture, economics, you name it. If you found this video helpful, got any value from it, make sure you share it with a friend, like the video, and subscribe for more content just like this. And we'll catch y'all on the next episode.